Let's go Broncos! In the last few hours, we've received some major news, and of course, I'm going to break it all down for you right now. Head coach Sean Payton has his radar on, and it looks like the Denver Broncos could be strengthening their roster with some new names. In fact, there are 5 names, and I'm about to tell you all about them. But before we dive in, make sure you've smashed that like button if you're a true Denver Broncos fan. It's amazing to see fans of all ages here. Some of you have been rooting for the Broncos for over 20 years. Maximum respect. Now, let's get to the good stuff. We have 5 names on Sean Payton's list: Aaron Jones, Talanoa Hufanga, Juwan Johnson, Darius Slayton, and Dre Greenlaw. These are the 5 names linked to the Denver Broncos as potential free agent targets, according to ESPN. But do these signings make sense for Denver? And more importantly, what do they reveal about Sean Payton and George Paton's vision for the team's future? Let's break down each player and see how they could impact the Broncos roster heading into the next season. Starting with running back Aaron Jones. The veteran Green Bay Packers star spent last season with the Minnesota Vikings and put up solid numbers: 1,100 rushing yards, over 400 receiving yards, and 7 total touchdowns. At 30 years old, he's still a productive and versatile player, exactly the kind of dual-threat back Payton likes to have in his offense. And let's be honest, the Broncos' run game desperately needs help. Last season, Denver's leading rusher was Javonte Williams, who barely cracked 550 yards. That's less than half of what Jones produced in Minnesota. If Denver wants to fix its offense, getting a reliable, dynamic running back should be a priority. Of course, there's always the question of age. Running backs in their 30s often see a decline in production, but can the Broncos afford to be picky? The last truly effective running back in Denver was Latavius Murray, who rushed for over 100 yards in a game 2 years ago at 30 years old. So maybe it's time to drop the age concerns and focus on pure production. Jones would immediately improve the Broncos' backfield and help take pressure off the quarterback, whoever that ends up being. Shifting to the defensive side of the ball, let's talk about Talanoa Hufanga. When healthy, the 49ers safety is one of the best in the league. He was an All-Pro in 2022 and a key playmaker for San Francisco. But that's the issue, his availability. Injuries have plagued him over the past 2 seasons, limiting him to just 7 games last year. And that presents a tough decision for Denver. Do they take a risk on a high-talent player who might not be able to stay on the field? The Broncos' defense showed flashes of improvement last season, and adding a dynamic playmaker like Hufanga could elevate them even more. But there are also quality safeties available in the later rounds of the draft. It comes down to how much risk Denver is willing to take. If Hufanga stays healthy, he's a game changer. If not, he's just another big contract sitting on the sideline. Now, let's switch back to offense with Juwan Johnson, the New Orleans Saints tight end. This one makes a lot of sense. Payton loves bringing in his former players, and Johnson had a respectable 548 yards and 3 touchdowns last season, despite playing in an inconsistent offense that cycled through 3 different quarterbacks. The Broncos need more production from the tight end position badly. The group was almost invisible last season, and that's not sustainable in a Sean Payton offense. The tight end is a crucial piece in his system, and Johnson would bring reliability and familiarity to the position. That said, the upcoming draft class is loaded with tight end talent. Denver could go the rookie route instead. But why not do both? Sign Johnson for immediate impact and draft a young tight end for long-term development. It's a low-risk, high-reward strategy that could finally solidify the position for the Broncos. Moving on to wide receiver Darius Slayton from the New York Giants. This one is a bit more questionable. His numbers last season, 573 yards and 2 touchdowns, don't exactly scream must-sign player. But to be fair, Slayton played in a Giants offense that was a disaster. He had to deal with Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, and even former Broncos quarterback Drew Lock throwing him the ball. Slayton does bring one key asset: speed. He can stretch the field, something Denver always looks for. But is he really worth the investment? There might be better, more explosive options available in free agency or even the draft. Slayton wouldn't be a bad addition, but he's far from a game changer. Finally, we have Dre Greenlaw, the 49ers linebacker. This might be the most interesting name on the list. Greenlaw suffered an Achilles injury during the Super Bowl, which cost him most of the 2024 season. But before that, he was one of the best linebackers in the league. In 2023, he played 15 games, recorded 120 tackles, and was a key part of San Francisco's elite defense. The Broncos might need to add a linebacker, especially if they don't re-sign Cody Barton. Greenlaw would be a high upside signing. He's young, athletic, and great in pass coverage, which is a must-have for modern linebackers. The only concern is his recovery. Achilles injuries can be tough to bounce back from, but by the time the 2025 season starts, he'll be about 18 months removed from the injury. That gives him a solid chance to return to his pre-injury form. If the Broncos can get him at a discount due to his injury, this could be a steal. He's the kind of player who could make a real difference in the middle of the defense. So, what does all this tell us? Denver is looking for key upgrades, but they're also trying to be smart with their moves. They have clear needs: running back, safety, tight end, receiver, linebacker, and each of these players fills a specific role. Now, it's your turn. If you could pick just one of these 5 free agents for the Broncos to sign, who would it be? Or do you think Denver should pass on all of them? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's take this discussion even further. What does targeting these specific players tell us about the Broncos' overall strategy heading into 2025? Sean Payton and George Payton aren't just looking for any free agents, they're looking for specific types of players who fit their vision. And that vision is becoming clearer with each move they consider. First, the interest in Aaron Jones signals that the Broncos are prioritizing immediate help at running back. That tells us a couple of things. 1, they recognize that the running game was a disaster last season. And 2, they aren't necessarily counting on Javonte Williams to be the long-term answer. Williams, while talented, has struggled to regain his pre-injury form, and Denver doesn't have time to wait. The fact that they're even considering a veteran like Jones suggests that they might be looking for a short-term fix while also exploring younger options in the draft. It also raises the question, what does this mean for Samaje Perine? The veteran back was solid in a limited role last season, but he's not a true RB1. If Denver signs Jones, Perine likely slides into a complementary role again, which might be the best-case scenario for him. And if the Broncos really want to shake things up, could they look at a running back early in the draft? It wouldn't be shocking. The potential pursuit of Talanoa Hufanga also tells us a lot. If Denver is seriously considering him, it suggests that they're willing to take a risk on high-upside talent, even with injury concerns. And let's be real, signing Hufanga would be a gamble, but the payoff could be huge. The Broncos have been searching for a game-changing safety since Justin Simmons' prime years, and while their secondary showed flashes of brilliance last season, adding an all-pro caliber player could take it to another level. But there's another layer to this. If Denver is looking at Hufanga, does that mean they're not fully sold on their current safeties? Could someone like P.J. Locke or Caden Stearns be on the way out? Or are they just looking to add depth and competition? Either way, it's clear that Denver sees room for improvement in the secondary, and they're at least considering making a bold move to address it. Then there's Juwan Johnson. This one is almost too predictable. Sean Payton has a history of bringing his guys wherever he goes, and Johnson fits the mold perfectly. The tight end position was almost non-existent in Denver's offense last season, and that's something Payton is clearly looking to fix. But this raises another question. Why didn't Adam Troutman, another former Saints tight end, work out the way Payton hoped? If the system is so dependent on tight end production, why didn't we see more from that group last season? Part of the answer is personnel. Troutman simply didn't deliver. The other part is the quarterback situation, which we'll get to in a moment. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 players would you most want to see in a Broncos uniform next season? And what do you think Denver should do at quarterback? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's get the conversation going.